Hey folks, happy Monday. Thanks for joining us. We continue our Pastor's Devotional Bible Study series. Thanks for joining us on this day. This whole week we're going to be focused on a life of prayer, reading some scriptures out of the Gospels that show Jesus praying when Jesus teaches to prayer and teaches his disciples to pray. And where this comes from is you might know that this summer I was supposed to be on Renewal Leave, which is an opportunity every 7 years for United Methodist clergy to have some time away for increased spiritual life, some study, maybe some writing. And so I was going to do that this summer. The pandemic canceled all of that, like it has canceled many things in life. But I have continued reading some of what I had planned to read. And one of the authors that I had planned to read during my renewal leave is Saint Teresa of Avila. And Saint Teresa is from Spain. She was from Spain, 16th century Roman Catholic. She's this woman from sort of this middle class kind of family, and she gave up the creature comforts of life in order to enter a monastic life of prayer. And she was counted as not tremendously remarkable or anything when she went in, but obviously being a saint, she rose to a great stature, and she really became this very profound and prominent voice for change within the church. And she is really counted as the one who completely changed and reformed the Carmelite order, both men, monks, and nuns. She was a prolific writer and teacher. A woman in the church in those days was not highly respected, but she became highly respected. And she was just kind of this agitator for change, and she's always been a voice that really inspires me, and I was interested in reading more about her. And so I've been doing some of that. And to start with, what I wanted to do this week is just to focus. Her purpose in going to the monastery was to be a person of prayer. And so what I did was I chose 6 different gospel passages about prayer that might help us on this week to think about our prayer life as we are participating in these devotionals. So the first passage this morning, Matthew chapter 6, verses 5 through 8. I'll give you a second to get there. Matthew chapter 6, verses 5 through 8. And whenever you pray, do not be like the hypocrites, for they love to stand and pray in the synagogues and at the street corners, so that they may be seen by others. Truly, I tell you, they have received their reward. But whenever you pray, go into your room and shut the door and pray to your Father who is in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. When you are praying, do not heap up empty phrases as the Gentiles do, for they think that they will be heard because of their many words. Do not be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask him. So thinking about prayer this week, I wanted to start with this list. This is sort of the don't do this list. And let me just walk through these things. Don't pray in public places. Now, I got to tell you, this is always a little sticky for me. Part of my job, some would say, is leading prayer in church in public places, or praying in other places. Occasionally, I'll get asked to pray at a dedication of some kind of thing, or at some kind of rally or some meeting or something. And I'm always a little bit leery of that because of this passage, that what we need to make sure of is that we're not praying, or we're not posturing in a religious way so that people might think, oh, he's so religious. You're so religious. You do that so well. That rather prayer would be much better served in secret, behind a closed door, just between you and God. And so I want us to just see that it doesn't really have to do with whether you're in public or not. What it has to do with is the intent. Is your intent in prayer to call upon God's presence for yourself or for whatever the situation is? Or is your intent in prayer to make yourself look good, or to make other people think of you as a great religious person? That's the place of caution. And then it says, when you are praying, do not heap up empty phrases as the Gentiles do, for they think that they will be heard because of their many words. Again, I read this with trepidation. And I read it with trepidation because as a pastor, I've studied and I have a certain kind of vocabulary, religious vocabulary. And so praying in front of the church, I think one of the worst things that we do is we have our pastors lead a lot of the prayers, and our pastors have this kind of religious vocabulary. And so then lay people who don't have that vocabulary think that they don't pray well, or they can't pray well, or they don't know the right words to use. What I always tell people is prayer is a intimate, personal communication between your heart and the heart of God. Now, occasionally you might invite people into that conversation with you, your family or friends. Occasionally you might do this in a public setting, but the words, whether they're out loud or silent, whether they're big and beautiful with lots of theological meaning, or whether they're the simplest sort of moans of our voice, it's between you and God. And so the Gentiles, the philosophers, and what it's talking about is during this day, as Christians were going around, they would have seen Gentiles, and there would have been a lot of philosophers. So remember, this is the culture that produced Plato and Socrates and Aristotle. Learned and in some ways verbose men, and they would have been praying eloquently in the street corners, using all of these fancy words. Again, why? So that people would think better of them. See, the truth is, religion should never make people think better of us. Religion should always make people think better of God. So if there's ever a question about whether something is right according to Christianity, if something is pure, consider the motive. Does whatever action being taken make people think more of the person or more of God? Does the person performing the action want people to think more of themselves or more of God? And so we pray simple words in quiet because it's not about us. When we serve food at a soup kitchen, it's not about how good we are. It's about how good God is to work in and through us for those people receiving. When you hear a great sermon preached by someone, it's not about how great that preacher is. It's about how great God has worked through that woman or man to bring that word. When you see someone do that sacrificial work or deed or make that sacrificial gift. It's not about that person. It's about what God has done in and through that person. So as we go about this day, I invite you to encourage you to think about the motive for our religious operation. About us or about God? I pray it's always about God. God bless.